There are none so blind as those who will not see. The trolls were out in force today, tossing many remarks of an ignorant nature at Jerome Coursi. But in his typical manner, he handled each one with grace and truth. I believe he saw through the trolls in much the same way he sees through the current Q impersonator who tipped his hand by sowing seeds of discord in his posts. I'm glad that God has given us a man like Dr. Coursi, who has both spiritual discernment and deep understanding about intelligence. The degree with which he swiftly sorts through the disinformation, psyops, and confusion is exceptional. I pity the trolls mostly because they can't recognize a national treasure when they see one. Well, let's now hear from our national treasure, Jerome Coursi.
5 p.m. Eastern Time, May 11th, 2018. And there's several things we're going to discuss today. I mean, there's a whole new QAnon controversy, and I'll address that, but I'll do that in the second half of the broadcast. I want to take the first half to talk about some really important developments in the Mueller special prosecutor case, and what I'm increasingly presenting as Donald Trump's, I think, developing plan to fire Mueller, Rosenstein, and Sessions. And I think the plan has some new developments that I want to talk about today. I will follow the super chat, and I will thank everybody who does contribute. Because of the controversy, I expect we're going to get a large number of trolls showing up here. And I already see one or two posting less than, gutter language. That's okay. Whatever they want to do, they can do. I'm probably not going to pay any attention to the trolls, but I expect that they will be in here trashing the live chat. So I apologize for that, but please bear with it. And of course, part of the attacks have to do with, not making any money, and so I suspect the super chat will also antagonize the trolls. At any rate, I'm going to take the first half hour and go through these issues. I want to thank everybody here who's listening today. We have almost 700 joining us in the first 3 minutes. I think that's very good. And the number will build as we go along. But it's terrific to have as many here. And again, we have people from all over the world and all over the country joining us. I'm very happy to have that here. So, thank you for joining me. Trolls, have at it. Amuse yourselves. Go at it. And for the rest who really want to pay attention to the content, the trolls are here to try to do their best to be disruptive. And so they'll be at it. Now, the first half of this, I want to focus on some new developments that are going on right as we speak. And thank you, by the way, Polly Vance. Thank you very much. S.J. Kirk, I really do appreciate it, especially with all these troll attacks. It's nice to know that there are people who are supporting us, and I really appreciate it. Godspeed all of you, and thank you for your trust and your confidence. And I look forward to continue to work with you to advance the cause of Donald J. Trump. And, I'll say to begin with, God bless Donald J. Trump. Okay, now, the recent developments, and David, Laurie, Van Der Beek, thank you all very much. I agree. We're not going to be divided unless, I'm certainly going to continue supporting Donald J. Trump, and all that want to do that are welcome to join me. Here we have this was reported on Zero Hedge, Wall Street Journal. It's a very important developing story. We found out, if you've been following it, there's this intense battle developing between the House Intelligence Chairman Devin Nunes. Yes, again, we're going to cover the QAnon drama later. That'll be the second half of the broadcast. I won't neglect it. I'm going to discuss it and share my views on it. But I really do not want to take the whole hour on that. I want to make sure we cover what I think are just important developments here in the Mueller special prosecution operation. And those who are, regularly following me, I want to keep everybody as up to date as we can be on developments that are important. So this past week, we saw this battle between House Intel Chairman Devin Nunes and the Department of Justice with and the Mueller investigation. There's this cache of documents, maybe a million documents, a huge number of documents that Nunes wants to be turned over to Congress, and Congress has, I believe, a right to those documents in its oversight capacity. In other words, the way the bureaus work, which are part of the executive branch, is that Congress has been given the right to oversee their activities to make sure that the bureaus stay within the law, a function which I think Congress has been woefully neglectful on over the past couple of decades, letting the bureaucracy go its own direction and become a shadow government. At any rate, Rod Rosenstein, the Deputy Attorney General, has consistently refused to turn over these documents. He said that he is not going to be extorted into turning these documents over to Congress. And Jeff Sessions has supported Rosenstein in not turning these documents over. However, it appears that they were turned over to the special counselor. So Congress can't see them, but the special counselor can. Now, in a series of developments this week, and Nunes got an opportunity in this battle to actually have a group go over and view actually they viewed some documents, and they had a briefing by the Department of Justice on what these documents contained. And I want to just kind of read this paragraph. On Wednesday afternoon, news emerged that Nunes and the House Oversight and Government Reform Committee Chairman Trey Gowdy would receive a classified Thursday briefing on the Department of Justice documents. That was incredibly significant because what it revealed and what developed was that there is an FBI may have embedded a mole, a spy, inside the Trump campaign. Now, you would think, and I would think, that if Trump was working for the good guys, working for Donald Trump, he wouldn't be hiding or agreeing with Rosenstein to hide these documents. Okay, because the question is, did the FBI engage in outright spying against the 2016 Trump campaign? And what I maintained when I wrote Killing the Deep State was that the coup d'etat conspiracy started in the Obama Department of Justice, FBI, in the FBI in particular. Okay? Now, basically, the Department of Justice lost the battle with Congress when a few members of the House Intelligence Committee were allowed to view these top-secret documents of the Trump campaign. Even without official confirmation, the news got some stunning implications and results from it. What it turned out was that House investigators looking at these few documents figured out the name of the mole. And I think the mole may have well been Carter Page, who was involved in previous FBI operations and was placed as a spy talking about Russia, because Carter Page in 2015 had done a similar sting operation for the FBI, going after prosecuting some Americans on illegal activities with Russians. And I think Carter Page did it again as a paid FBI informant. The FISA warrant for electronic surveillance permission was issued by the FISA court only on Carter Page. Okay, and Carter Page is one of these guys that nobody focuses on or thinks about very much. He's kind of like an operative that is not very high level. But even though the FISA electronic surveillance was only in Carter Page, if he goes into the campaign and starts talking with others, like Jeff Sessions, or like maybe all the senior players in the Trump campaign, then under the FISA laws, Sessions and all the others can be placed under electronic surveillance and what they call collateral. In other words, they weren't the target of the investigation, but because they were talking about Russia to Carter Page, they became collateral suspects. So with this authority, Carter Page is the single mole. The FBI might have been able to do electronic surveillance of virtually everybody in the Trump campaign. Okay, now, when this came out, it was a tremendous shock, and it looks like this is what's being covered up. Because if these pages get released, what we know, at least at a minimum, is that they are going to be very, very detrimental and damaging to the FBI and the Department of Justice. What it's going to prove is that the conspirators within the FBI utilized this Russian dossier, the Fusion GPS dossier, that Comey said could not be authenticated. It didn't prove any Russian collusion, but that was the basis for the FISA electronic surveillance permission on Carter Page. That was used over everybody, and there was a mole that it was there to kind of induce everybody to talk about Russia. It means that the criminal coup d'etat plot, it involved improper use of the FISA warrant procedure, and that's a serious criminal offense. Now, secondly, what we also know is that and we know this from a couple of the cases that have developed in the federal district court, that the original FISA approval, which was given in 2016 during the campaign, Rod Rosenstein extended in July 2017, which would have been sixth month of the Trump presidency, and that would have allowed at least 3 more months, so at least 9 months while Trump was in the White House. The same fraudulent Fusion GPS is at least part of the basis for the FISA court approval to do electronic surveillance was extended. So now Donald Trump and his chief of staff, all of his different staff, are involved in being under electronic surveillance by the FBI. I mean, can you imagine, as president, you and your senior advisors, the FBI is conducting electronic surveillance to try to prove you committed a crime of Russian collusion, but the basis for that assumption, the probable cause, didn't exist. That's why Comey didn't go for a search warrant to a federal district judge, because a Title III search warrant had a lot stronger elements of proof than a Title I getting permission under the FISA court to do electronic surveillance. Okay, now, we're being able to learn all of this. I want to make sure that everybody understands that what we're saying right here is that the coup d'etat is being revealed, and that we're now getting information in these million pages, and Nunes is going to get them. If Donald Trump needs to get involved, Donald Trump has already said he will get involved and make sure that Sessions and Rosenstein hand over what Congress is demanding. Once Congress has got these, I think, huge quantity of paper, maybe 1 million documents, the proof of a coup d'etat attempt to frame Donald Trump is going to be overwhelming. Now, once the American people can understand that, once the American people are shown the documents, not just a political argument, but here's the documents. Just like with the Strozik and Page text messages, once we saw them, the two lovers, and realized that they were talking about hating Donald Trump and that everything they could do, they were going to do in order to prevent Donald Trump from being president. In fact, getting an insurance policy, which I think is this electronic surveillance, and using the Fusion GPS dossier. Now, all of this means that Donald Trump is entering, I think, the end game with Mueller. This is the end game because Mueller's run out his string. The one case that he has on 13 Russian trolls, this Russian troll farm that posted some posts, very few, on social media during the campaign. The Justice Department, Rosenstein, has already said, in announcing the indictment, that the Justice Department doesn't believe this affected even a single vote. And there was no collusion even suspected with Donald Trump or his campaign. If that's all Mueller's got, after more than a year of investigation, and it turns out that Mueller himself knew that all of this was based on a dossier that was done in London that could not be validated as true by the FBI trying to prove Russian collusion. In fact, there's no evidence, it appears, at all that Donald Trump colluded with Russia. Remember what collusion with Russia means. It means that Donald Trump somehow or other encouraged Russia to hack the Democratic National Committee computers to get Hillary Clinton's emails and John Podesta's emails, and then Donald Trump colluded with Russia to get those emails, once they'd been stolen in a hack of the computers, delivered to WikiLeaks, where Julian Assange published them. Now, Julian Assange has repeatedly said it was not Russia, and that the evidence points, I believe, to Seth Rich, who was an insider in the Democratic National Committee, who was working in the internet technology, the IT, and he was a Bernie Sanders supporter, did not like learning that Hillary and Debbie Wasserman Schultz had rigged the primaries so that Bernie Sanders didn't stand a chance. Okay, now, if Donald Trump did not have direct ties to Russia to force the theft of those emails, there's no Russian collusion. And all the other arguments they pursued that, well, maybe Donald Trump promised that he would reduce the sanctions if only Russia would throw votes to Donald Trump. Well, how is Russia going to do that? You know, Russia is not so powerful that its tweets were going to be determinative in a presidential election. I want to thank everybody here for take a moment on the Frank in the super chat. MZ, thank you. The Native Patriot, thank you. And I think I did David Laurie Vander Beck, thank you. All of these are very much appreciated, especially, you know, with all of the attacks and distress we've been under lately. I appreciate them very much. Thank you for your continued support. Now, the point I'm making here with this is that even if Donald Trump, you know, were guilty of collusion, that's not a crime. It's not illegal to talk to Russians. In fact, Hillary Clinton, Podesta did a lot of talking to Russians. And I pointed out there a whole chapter in Killing the Deep State where Hillary and Podesta were being paid by Russia. And it appears under the table, because the money to Podesta went through a shell company in the Netherlands called Jolie, Joule, that Russia had set up to be a money laundering operation. And he was getting paid by a Russian oligarch named Vekselberg. And in the book I even detail how the payments came and how the payments were structured. And Hillary was getting money through her foundation. We estimate about $147 million for the Uranium One deal. And Mueller, by the way, whose net worth is about $18 million, Comey's between $11 and $15 million, it was circulating in and out of these cushy jobs, either on boards or on law firms. In fact, Mueller was making $3.5 million in the law firm before he became special prosecutor. And I wonder if any of that was a payoff for him covering up before the Committee on Foreign Investments of the United States voted that there was a Russian bribery scheme in the uranium industry in the United States, which Mueller knew about, had been involved in the investigation and prosecution of one individual, but they did not share that information with the Committee on Foreign Investments in the United States before it voted. Okay, so now what I'm saying is that when we get this evidence, we uncover this evidence, it's going to be the people who are the deep state Democrats. It's going to be Mueller, who was set up as a special prosecutor. These are the people who are likely to be found the criminals. And Donald Trump has got to go through this first phase where he is, in fact, doing everything he can to, not be impeached. But Donald Trump knows all these people. He knows these key players. He knows who they are. And he also knows how to beat them. And he's good at this game. So Donald Trump is now positioning so that Mueller has several different ways to be fired. He can be found out in these new release of papers from the Department of Justice and FBI that Devin Nunes is pressing for, that really document there was a coup d'etat, as I've maintained, killing the deep state within the Department of Justice that spread over, even including the CIA and the Obama White House, with the electronic surveillance information being shared with the White House, unmasked, the names were unmasked by Valerie Jarrett, and leaked to the press. Criminal. At the heart of the coup d'etat was the decision to frame Donald Trump for Russian collusion. And that required that these deep state criminals in the FBI use this dossier, which they knew they couldn't validate, as evidence of Russian collusion in order to commit FISA warrant application crimes by misleading the FISA court to think the FBI had real evidence that Donald Trump had colluded. Now that the abuse of the FISA court with the lying Fusion GPS dossier is at the heart of the coup d'etat conspiracy. And then now they're continuing to cover it up, and it appears to me that Sessions is involved in the cover-up by not releasing these documents to Congress when Congress has a legitimate right to see them. And as Donald Trump pursues this, there's three avenues here. Number one, these documents released can make clear to the American people there was a coup d'etat. And it was the deep state criminals, the Democrats, the New World Order crowd that was doing it. Number two, in one of the cases that now is before the federal district court cases, either the Russian troll farm case against Paul Manafort, who was the campaign manager for Donald Trump, or Michael Flynn, the general who was National Security Council advisor to President Trump, the judges have suggested they might throw the case out because of prosecutorial misconduct. In Manafort's case, it was that Manafort is being charged for offenses that occurred in 2005 and 2006, 10 years before Donald Trump's campaign started. And the judge said that's unfettered prosecutorial authority to investigate anything in order to find a crime. You're a prosecution in search of a crime. General Flynn's case, we now know from the House Intelligence Report GOP majority statement that General Flynn did not lie. And yet Mueller refused to turn over to the court the information that in Strozik's interrogation of Flynn, Strozik and McCabe, two people in the FBI are part of the conspirators, altered the interrogation report to make it look like General Flynn lied. And the Russian troll farm, there doesn't seem to be a case. It doesn't seem to be provable that these Russians did any damage to the election. If one of those cases is thrown out, the public will see that Mueller is a crooked prosecutor. That's the second way you can get rid of Mueller. And the third way you can get rid of Mueller is if Mueller himself becomes under criminal investigation in the Uranium One deal. I think the two real Achilles heels here are the FISA court abuses and the warrants that were applied, and the fact that you had prosecutorial misconduct, taking these cases way beyond what the authority, a limited authority of the special counselor should have been. And then the Uranium One case, which when I think that's fully investigated, we really see the crimes of the Clinton Foundation, the pay-to-play schemes, the money that was changing hands, the suppression of evidence within the Department of Justice and the FBI. What Rosenstein and Sessions are trying to cover up is that we have a treasonous FBI and Department of Justice. And I believe that information will come out. And I believe it's going to come out because it's not just the Democrats who are dirty. It's also the establishment Republicans in Congress, who, the elite in Washington, including McConnell, including Ryan, who would be happy with the cover-up because they don't want their boat rocked. It's too comfortable for them. They have too much in terms of their ability to enrich themselves with crimes and lobbyists and all the rest that they do. And in this particular case, with the Russian uranium deal, I think you're going to find a hornet's nest of lies and selling out the United States, which is, to me, I mean, even if these people were just, greedy lobbyists, fact is that it involves selling out the United States, which makes it so traitorous, and then trying to impeach Donald Trump because he dared come in and say America first. Okay, now that's into the first half, and I want to conclude the first half by saying that the reason we should all be concerned about this, take this so seriously, is that what's at stake here is the Constitution and the future of our structure of limited government. We need here to get back to the fundamental principles our founding fathers gave us. And this is not just for ourselves, it's for our children and our grandchildren to preserve in what the United States has been, which is one of the greatest nations ever conceived and put on the face of the earth, and dedicated to God. And I'll continue to say that the Judeo-Christian tradition is what we uphold, what I personally uphold. Jesus Christ, I say repeatedly, my personal Lord and Savior, and I believe the United States was not created, nor the Constitution written, to have it thrown away by a group of New World Order treasonous conspirators within the Department of Justice. What we need your involvement, and what I'm dedicated to is your knowledgeable involvement to understand the issues and to demand justice. Because it is we the people. You are we the people. I think it'll be a worldwide awakening to see that this type of New World Order and justice is not going to be tolerated, and that we will save the Constitution and bring justice, even if it includes military tribunals and Hillary Clinton and Barack Obama being tried for treason. And in my book, Killing the Deep State, I say that's the end game. Now, let's transition here and talk about the recent Q controversies. And here I believe you're going to see, if you watch the trolls are going to absolutely go wild about everything I say. They're going to, trash my religion. They're going to call me all kinds of names that you can imagine. Frank, thank you very much. They're going to do everything they can to, pull up my past from 25 years ago to, what I want you to do in this discussion is I want you to sort out this question. I want you to use some critical thinking and ask yourselves what's going to be most useful to yourself. Because the question is whether or not, and I've raised the question, whether a PSYOPs, a psychological operation that's classical intelligence disinformation, has hijacked the QAnon personality, identity, such that the information we're getting now is of a fundamentally different nature, designed to divide and destroy the movement by a psyop posing as QAnon, who is really out to destroy the movement and to destroy Donald Trump. That's my contention. And others who are vilifying me for saying that. I mean, if you could see my Twitter feed and look at all the all the different things that I'm accused of being in foul language, scatological language. Someone said, "I'm going to steal your book and put it up on the internet so everybody can read it free." Well, Donald Trump's also an author who makes money from his writing. QAnon has been basically saying that we're traitors because we want to profiteer on the patriot movement by writing a book. Well, I mean, first of all, I wrote the book before I even got involved in the serious consideration of Q. The book was finished before that. It had nothing to do with the Q movement. Q is not even mentioned in the book because I wasn't seriously aware of Q until after the book was written. Secondly, I want you to, as we go through this discussion, I want you to realize how many of the things that this new Q, after April 28th, which is when I marked the full takeover, the hijacking of the Q personality was done. I want you to ask yourselves, how many of the arguments being made by Q do you really believe in? How many sound like the left attacking me? Every book I've written, I've written 30 books since 2004, and every book I've written is been vilified. Back to the book I wrote with John Leo, Unfit for Command, opposing John Kerry's presidential campaign in 2004. And the left is the ones who come out with the abusive attacks. They're the ones using the Saul Alinsky techniques and the Soros techniques and the army of bots and trolls paid. Not everybody who's opposing me here is paid. I don't say that. But there's a great number. You can recognize them after a while. Attacked for as many years as I've been, in pretty much the same way. Somebody doesn't like politically what I'm saying. They want to block the message. And I'm telling you, from the beginning I've been a supporter of Donald Trump. And my interest has only ever been to support Donald Trump. That's why I got into decoding Q. That's why I'm continuing to present you with information. And even if now I'm going to distance myself from the Q movement, except it may be difficult with all these attacks, I find that they, the bots and the like, constantly are vilifying, trashing, interfering. What the left does, and I think I'm seeing it here on this attack from the Q supporters, who are motivated by saying that patriots shouldn't make money, nobody should want fame, you shouldn't want any followers. These people are listening to an identity whom they don't know who it is, really. And once I say they're a cult, they go insane. Now watch over and say Q is becoming a cult. Now just watch how the trolls react to this. This will make them go insane. They'll say no. They'll now start accusing me of being everything. And usually the level of their intellectual arguments tends to be to say liar, 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 liar over again. And you just have, and then say, I'm the traitor. I'm the one who hates freedom. I mean, I'm the cult. And then, of course, the ones who are really clever begin to say, the FUs and all the others. And then they get so mad, they just foam at the mouth. Okay, and I really wish I'd invite you all. I'm not gonna delete them right now. I'm gonna capture a few of them to show you the intellectual level of their attack. But ask yourself, if this were the true Q, why is Q dividing the movement? A leader wants to unify the movement, and until Q began dividing the movement, until I began seeing posts that were just not characteristically Q, that the language was different, And then the attacks personally began starting, writing a book, profiteering, making money, wanting all these to be my followers. Quite frankly, I've never wanted to have I've never had, people can follow me if they like, and I'm always honored to have, but my goal is to explain the connections in politics. When I write these books, birth certificate, I was vilified in that one. These guys are amateurs compared to, uh, the attacks I got in the birth certificate book. They're all saying, you must be worth how many millions of dollars, and you're really associated with the Rockefellers, so you got this money from the Rockefellers in Poland. I mean, these people know nothing about some photographs that are 25 years old when I was working in banking. Oh, I'm Assad. That's another thing I'd like you to monitor in the current group supporting Q, is the intensification of this anti-Semitic, anti-Israel, hate Israel. And I'm sorry, but my support of Israel is personal, it's biblical, and that the way I read the Bible, God says the Jewish state would be reestablished. I believe that happened in 1948 under President Truman, and that once it was reestablished, it would never disappear from the face of the earth. Okay, now just take a look at all the. Oh yes, well I'm sure the trolls think they're winning. I'm sure if you count, but just take a look at actually look at the abuse over here in the. Do I hold dual citizenship? I mean, these people are insane. If this is the quality of supporter that Q wants to attract to Donald Trump, and please take a look at these people, what they're saying, their ridicule, their inability to do critical thinking, and they published a disinformation piece, and they said that a great elaborate argument. It was that I was going to build up the movement so I could tear it down, and then I could really transfer it all to Alex Jones. I mean, some of these schemes are so fantastic that they must have some kind of psychosis to even think of them. My support of QAnon, when I just took a look at it and decided that I thought early on, and I still think, is a military intelligence group close to General Flynn. And I had inquired about that with people who were very close to the White House, some in the White House. The confirmation was that initially this was a legitimate group. And I followed them for a while, began posting about them, trying to decode them, because I thought the questions being asked, the information being given, was a great springboard to use to educate a large number of people on deep politics issues. And so I got myself involved in it in order to try to take the Q message and bring it out to a larger number of people. And, it did disturb me that Q was not always right, or the Q was, taking pictures about pens on Trump's desk and using that as verification that Q was close to Trump. And I supported those, tried to say this is what is trying to be said here, that there was winks and nods between Trump and Q. And I think to some extent there was coordination. I think Trump did want to support the Flynn group, and has said repeatedly that he's thought about, giving General Flynn a pardon, which I think General Flynn deserves.